Good morning friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Medical Classes by Dr. Srinidhi Kumar Acharya. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also please give your valuable comments. You can also visit the playlist. In the playlist I have provided almost all the topics in a very systematic order, and definitely it is quite convenient for your study, and I hope it will be helpful for your study. My dear friends, we have been discussing about adolescent care. In the first part we have seen the Ayurveda method of adolescent care and how Ayurveda has taken sufficient caution during adolescence period by different methods. The next part we have been discussing some of the contemporary aspects related to adolescence, and in that we have seen adolescents obesity and adolescents prevalent rate disorders, and now in the last class we have seen some of the adolescent eating problems like anorexia nervosa and anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. And today we shall see some of the more details regarding adolescents nutrition. Now, nutrient requirement for adolescents is very important. They should know that. If they don't know, we have to make them realize how much energy a teen or a teenager need. Now, appetite increases markedly with the adolescents. This is one problem. Okay, so their capacity of eating will going to increase. The reason is it is also the period of the growth spurt, and as a result there is more and more energy requirement. So definitely their appetite will be increased if they are eating properly. Now, challenge is to manage the optimal growth without excessive weight gain. This is the main challenge in the adolescence period. So their appetite will go into increase, and we also know that they have to eat well, but they should not gain excess weight. Okay, so therefore a very calculated amount of calculated and a well managed diet system should be there. So they are having good appetite, and you cannot keep on giving such things which are very highly calorie rich and which leads to the obesity. Okay, this should not happen. So average teen boy need about 2400 to 2800 calories, while average teen girl need about 2000 kilocalories per day. So your whole diet plan should meet this particular demand. So for this the physical activity is very important. Now the need is 2400 to 2800 and you are providing it, but the child is or adolescent is not involved in any type of exercise, so that leads to the problem. So he has to take this much of amount. In the meantime, he has to also do the physical activity. And that is very important, otherwise it leads to obesity. Now, how much carbohydrate the teen need? So these are some of the calculations which will going to help you. 40 to 60% of the total energy should be from the carbohydrate sources, while what you can use is the whole meal cereals, breads and the potatoes, pasta, rice, etc. In a moderately active female teen, if the moderately active female teen is there, at least they should be provided 4 serving per day, like breakfast, lunch, then evening snack, and lastly the dinner. While in an inactive teen, the teen which is not doing much physical activity or not involved in the calorie wastage, so energy expenditure, etc., 3 serving per day is sufficient. Well, in a male, actually, we will say that about 5 to 7 servings should be required to an active male. If the male is very active, 5 to 7 servings is required, while 4 to 5 serving is required for an inactive male teen. Okay, talking about carbohydrate, we should also talk about the sugars. Now, sugar is 10% or less should come from the free sugars. Whatever sugar he is getting, out of that, about 10% or less than 10% should come from the free sugars, and salt 6 grams or less per day from the intake. So salt intake should not be too much, at least maximum 6 grams, not more than that. What about the fiber? 11 to 14 years of the age should get about 19 grams per day of the fiber. These are the studies data shows. 15 to 17 years should get up 21 grams per day of the fiber. Fiber is also very important. So there is a strong evidence that eating the plenty of fiber is associated with the lower risk of chronic disease in the later life. This is the data which have got. That means if you are taking good amount of the fiber in the early part of the adolescence and keep on doing that, then in the later part of the life you will have very less chance of getting chronic disorders, maybe especially related to the GIT. Okay, foods with fibers will also make us feel fuller, and diet rich in fiber also helps in digestion and prevent the constipation. This is one of the additional benefit of these fibers. We know that number one is when you are having more appetite, so naturally you have a tendency to eat more, and calorie intake may exceed the requirement. So that being the case, fiber diet if you are giving, so that will make your stomach fuller earlier. That means you will be satisfied earlier. And diet rich in the fiber also helps in the digestion also, and also it prevents the constipation because bulk is formed more and constipation will be relieved. Now, how much proteins that a teen need? Protein demand reaches the peak during the growth spurt. Now, growth spurt for the female it occurs before menarche, and growth spurt for the male it occurs after spermatogenesis. So we should keep it in mind, and accordingly we have to provide the proteins, because protein is one which is responsible for building of the body. It is building blocks of the body. So therefore we need to go for the proteins in a good amount. It is needed for the growth and repair of the muscles and the tissues, and the production of enzymes and hormones. Okay, because all the hormones are proteins, all the enzymes are proteins, intrinsic factors are proteins. So that means whole body growth means proteins. For the growth you need metabolism. For the metabolism there are so many enzymes, hormones. These hormones are again proteins. For the immunity, if you are talking, all the immune cells are basically they are protein. Okay, so if the immunity is less, you have to provide the protein, because with protein only the more and more immune cells are formed. So this is a basic thing. So protein is always required. So protein should provide about 12 to 15% of the energy, total energy. 60 to 70% we told that should be from the carbohydrate, and from 12 to 15% should come from the proteins energy. Yes, NTFS says about 14.8% of energy from the proteins. 14.8% of the energy should come from the proteins. This is NTFS data. Now, how much proteins a teen need? Again, we will continue. The amount of the proteins will vary as for the age also. Now, 0.86 to 0.91 per kg weight for the males, that is about 52 to 55 grams per day for a 60 kg male. Okay, if the weight is 60 kg, then this is the amount which is required. Similarly, 0.83 to 0.83 to 0.90 per kg weight for females, approximately about 46 to 50 grams per day for 50 kg males female. Okay, 50 kg female, 55 kg female. So the common protein sources as we can get are meat is there, poultry is there, chicken items, meat, fish, egg. This is okay. Then for a vegetarian part, beans are there, nuts are there, soya bean is there, okay, and dal, etc. is there. So at least 2 servings per day should be given to provide the sufficient amount of the proteins. Talking about the protein further, actual protein need is generally determined based on per kilogram of the body weight. Okay, actually how much protein is needed, so that is calculated by per kilogram of the body weight, 1 gram per kg body weight. Okay, this is the requirement. 1 gram of protein is required for 1 kg. Therefore, we usually say about 60 grams is required, 55 to 60 grams is required for a 60 kg male. Okay, the rough calculation if you are doing 1 kg per kg. 1 gram per kg body weight. However, the safe level of protein intake is higher during the early adolescence as compared to the late adolescence, because the late adolescence you don't have any growth spurts, but in the early adolescence mostly you will have the growth spurts. Okay, therefore it is always better to, if I am talking about 1 gram per kg, it is better to take at least 1.5 to 2 grams per kg to keep it in a higher level. Okay, don't strictly restrict yourself to 1 gram. So boys and girls in 13 to 15 years of the age group require about 54.5 grams per day and 51.9 grams per day proteins respectively, while 16 to 17 years boys need about 61.5 grams per day and girls require about 55.5 grams per day. So these are all the data which is available so far study which we have conducted. good quality of the protein should be consumed. That's also very important. Easily digestible, good quality of the protein should be consumed in the form of the cereal, pulses, milk, meat, and egg combination. Okay, so this combination is quite good. Cereal, pulses, milk, you will have sufficient amount of the protein. Then you can go for the egg, you can go for the meat and all. So next is about the adolescents' nutrition regarding the fat. How much fat they have to consume. Fat, it is told that about 20 to 35% of the energy should come from the fat, out of which 10% should come from the saturated sources. Okay, not unsaturated, saturated sources. The intake of the fat depends upon the total calories intake. It is recommended that fat intake should not exceed 30 to 35% of the total calories, because we know that 60% should come from the carbohydrate, about 20% should come from proteins according to one data, and about 10% should come from the fat. So fat providing calories should not exceed more than 30 to 35%. So that is dangerous. Only 10% of the total energy requirement of the body, 10 to 20%, should come from the fat. Okay, so it is recommended that fat intake should not exceed 30 to 35% of the total calories intake, with not more than 10% of the calories coming from the saturated fat. This is what I told. But total fat consumption should be in moderation with the restricted intake of the fried and bakery items. So now what happens is, fried and bakery items, they provide a lot of fat, and that will be added for the calorie, and that makes the difference. Nowadays we have been habituated for this fast food and all those bakery items, fried items, etc. So that makes the difference actually. Otherwise the natural homemade food, it will not create such problem related to obesity. So this is about the fat. Okay, now in the next class onwards we will look into the requirement of the micronutrients requirements for the adolescents in the coming classes. That is also one of the very important topic. Then we have got anemia in adolescents, one of the very important topic. So that also we will discuss in detail. Thank you very much. We will again meet in the next class.